Hi everyone, it's David from LinPower here. Welcome to another episode of Invest Power Stories. Now, what do I want to cover today? I'd like to continue on from our story last time where we talked about my Grenville property, about how I acquired that and what was the criteria for me to purchase that. And today I'd like to move on to my second property in Sydney, which is located in Hornsby. It's a unit. Again, I have actually put a blog post about a bit of background on that, and I'll put the link down there as well so it's easier for you to check it out. So the first interesting concept that I thought I'll share when I was buying this property is the difference between picking a owner-occupied property versus an investment. So at that time, the requirements for me is I need to be able to buy this property so that me and my girlfriend at that time would be able to move into this property and live there. So that by itself is very different from with choosing an investment property. So as such, the selection criteria is quite different. So let me give you an example. When I was choosing this property, you might ask why Hornsby? Okay, well, I was actually looking all the way from Chatswood all the way to Hornsby at that time, based on what's suiting our budget and also our lifestyle. You know, I certainly want to move closer to Chatswood because that's the premium suburb, and I like to live around the North Shore line where it's got train access. But when I thought about, I was working in North Sydney at that time, and my girlfriend was in Canberra. She'll be moving up to Sydney with me once we got this property. I'm not sure where her job is going to be at that time. So consider from geographical location, closer to Chatswood, yes, it's okay if you can land a job in Sydney CBD, but what happens if she's got her job out there in Parramatta? Then it's going to be very, very difficult to commute for her. So on that basis, I thought Hornsby actually isn't too bad because Hornsby's got express trains to Parramatta. You can go down all the way to Strathfield, express trains, and then change at Strathfield to Parramatta. And at the same time, if you need to commute to Central, then you can just take the Newcastle Express trains coming from Newcastle all the way down and to Central. So from that perspective, it's not going to, I'm keeping my options open so that in case that she gets a job in Sydney, that's been catered for, as well as Parramatta, okay? So that's one of the reasons. But if you ask me whether I would invest at Hornsby at that time, I probably wouldn't say no. I would look at somewhere more in the western suburbs. So fundamentally, that's a very different requirement. That's why, that's one of the interesting things that I picked up is when you pick a property, depending on your goal, if it's an owner-occupied property, your selection criteria should be very, very different for investment. And then another interesting concept I guess people will ask is, can you actually cater for both? Can you select a property that is both suitable for owner-occupied and also suitable for investment purposes? Okay, that's a great question. In my personal opinion, I don't think that is the best because essentially you'll get a property that's like half-half. You'll get some parts that you like as an owner-occ, but you also at the same time you'll get some parts that's really good for investment. I would suggest the first thing is make sure that the property, you understand exactly what this property is going to do for you. If it's going to be an investment, make sure that you tick off everything and do all the due diligence on the criteria that's going to make you the most money in the long term, in terms of growing its value and have the best rental return, all that stuff. Whereas if you're buying an owner-occupied property that you're going to live in yourself, then you need to factor in what are the lifestyles, your commute, your demographics around the area. These are the stuff that is going to be important for you as an owner-occupied property. So those are the criteria that I will consider. So depending on what this property is going to do for you, then focus on those aspects that is important to you, okay? So I wouldn't say that it's impossible to have both the selection criteria and, as a matter of fact, the selection criteria does overlap. Like in an owner-occupied property, you may also want, close to amenities, close to transport, and that will help later down the track as well if you do want to rent out your current owner-occupier later on and turn it into an investment property, that's going to help. But I would personally focus more on just making sure that this is an owner-occupied property for you and it fits your current goal in terms of what you're trying to achieve. Like what I said before, for me at that time, it was for us and for me and my girlfriend to be able to commute to work fairly quickly without having to without having to go over an hour each way. And within my budget, and have got the amenities close enough to the shopping centre, close enough to the train station. So those are the important factors to us at that time, and that's why we picked Hornsby. That's why we picked the apartment at that time, because it ticks all that boxes for us. So that's why, for me, that's what matters. One other thing I want to add on to the Hornsby property is that I did act fast with the offer. As you would read from the blog post, that I basically checked out the property on Saturday and I put in the offer on Saturday night by email. How can I do that so quickly? Now, first of all, because I've been checking the area, I've been going to literally every 2-bedroom unit around the Hornsby area for a good couple of months. So I know the price of the Hornsby units around that time very well. So, when I walk into a property, because I've seen so many, the comparative, straight away I know roughly how much it's going to be. Now I have to admit that, this property I have overpaid a little bit at that time, but because it is a fierce competition environment at that time, back in 2013, stocks are flying out so quickly, so I had to act very quickly, and I can't give too much. I can't actually put in a lowball offer at that time. Having said that, I know it's within my limit, the price that I offered at $438,000. It's a very well located unit to the station and amenities, and most importantly, it suits our lifestyle. And that's why, it doesn't matter. I think it's still reasonable, and I checked the contract myself, and there's nothing that stands out in particular, and that's why I thought I'll just put it through and see what happens. So that's definitely one of the main things, that if you want to be able to act fast, and you want to be able to know the price of the property as it come up, because that's really going to help you to be able to turn around the deal very, very quickly. Okay. Well, there goes another of our episode of Invest Power Stories. I hope you liked today's contents. If you got any questions, feel free to comment below. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button or subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, I will see you in another episode of Invest Power next week.